I'm Arian. I'm the CEO and founder of Alysida Health. After about a decade of wet lab research experience on human disease, I realized that my true calling was integrating my experience as a lifelong consumer of health products with my knowledge as an MIT biologist to create novel solutions to the booming wellness industry by growing through technology and scientific exploration. After successfully building several award-winning wellness brands, I realized I could further my contribution by creating a platform that allows consumers and patients to take ownership over their personalized health. And today is the uh, talk where we're going to explore how Alice Health is addressing the COVID-19 issue. Shall I share my screen, Mariana?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, great. So I can share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Alysida Health is a supply chain management company for personalized and public health. We're a next generation platform providing personalized health and resource management through blockchain. Ever since COVID-19 hit the US, the ability to adequately test patients has been a major issue. While the availability of tests is part of the problem, both methodology and accuracy rates, as well as availability, present confounding problems that we're all dealing with today. COVID-19 has clearly demonstrated that both the local and global supply chain for testing is fragmented, as well as healthcare disparities, lack of communication in the public and private health sectors, as well as a large issue that we're trying to address is that when we're in this pandemic, both our personal health information and ownership of our data is at an all-time necessity for us to think about when we're getting our results directly brought to government agencies and people have to disclose your positive or negative antibody tests in order to help with pandemic curve. We need to think about the systems that are involved in preserving our data and preserving our ownership of our public health information. The issue with COVID-19 is access to tests, access to testing results, your accuracy of tests, and overall testing strategy. The clinical diagnostic market is about $179 billion, while global home diagnostics are $6.5 billion. Alysida Health tracks clinical laboratory tests from reagent to result and integrates manufacturer, healthcare provider, and consumer feedback to improve friction in the supply chain. Consumers are able to track their clinical lab tests, their health conditions, provide symptom feedback, and receive healthcare provider advice, where we integrate information related to their genomics and personal health information into the data set to help create a powerful recommendation engine for the consumer. Manufacturers and healthcare organizations are able to track consumer data, leveraging these insights towards supply chain management and public health interventions. We accomplish this through the deployment of a unique QR code that's associated to the testing kits. This helps facilitate the data exchange by all the stakeholders in our supply chain, from the consumer to the manufacturers of the test, and all of these disparate stakeholders like the healthcare systems, the clinical laboratories, and regulatory agencies like the FDA and CDC who want this information rapidly so that we can make real-time decisions in dealing with the pandemic. Our value proposition is that we help solve these testing issues in terms of supply chain and information sharing. We track the types of tests available, the origin and reliability of these tests. We have partnerships with manufacturers and use this to integrate all the information regarding testing, both the raw materials and the efficacy of the test. We are working to improve the time frame to obtain results of your test and generally supporting the testing infrastructure. Our value proposition for the consumer is that we are the premier place to own your personal health information. When all of data gathering and personal health information is at a risk because we're dealing with a pandemic, we allow our consumers to own their personal health and biological sampling data the safety of the testing for the consumer. We monitor both the accuracy of the tests that they have and ensure that the tests aren't fraudulent. We focus on security of the data and your results all the way to the consumer response. Post-result tracking so that we can help you navigate your symptoms or predispositions to having a serious outcome or comorbidity with the test. With COVID-19, we are looking into the frequency and strategy for retesting, which is one of the largest issues that we're facing. Is this is a novel virus. How do we know when people are immune? How do we know how frequently you have to be tested in order to open up our economy again? We need to have data that is immutable so we can make decisions that actively help us reopen our economy. And our platform is focused on being the global information sharing tool that can facilitate this data exchange post-test consumption. We have a simple business model where we do setup, maintenance, and transactional revenue from our interactive test tracker, from our manufacturing supply chain partners. We do data as a service revenue for both private and public health sector, and we do consumer data storage and management for the Alysida health users, with the potential to upsell products and services based on your personalized healthcare needs and wellness information that you provide. We have a simple pricing structure where the manufacturers pay per download of our QR codes. We then sell this data as a service insight reports based on the data volume of our enterprise clients. And we do real-time tracking of this data so that we can make real-time decisions in where we should allocate resources and what resources are the most valuable for helping these high-risk communities that COVID is impacting. Our model 2 is for our enterprise level clients. So we are taking on a few large test manufacturers and labeling their tests to authenticate their process in supply chain. So we sell them the QR code for a discounted rate per batch. And we have an onboarding process where we have a small fee related to building out the manufacturing supply chain processes for them. And we do system support and maintenance. We have several direct co-competitors. So this pandemic has been unprecedented in the amount of collaboration entrepreneurs have been engaging in. So we have been seeking partnerships with Abbott Now ID, as well as some of these other companies that do fraud tracing and QR code monitoring of products in CPG fields. And we are launching in about 6 to 8 weeks with our first MVP launch. We're selling the QR codes to several test developers and private and public stakeholders in Q3 to Q4. We have an estimated revenue of year one around 1.8 million based on the LOIs and partnerships that we've formed. Year two, 7 million, year three, 20 million. We estimate that we'll sell 4 million QR codes in year one based on our potential partnerships. And we're currently raising our first outside round after 16 months of development of the back end. I'd like to thank my team, Chalisa Clark. She's our Chief Operating Officer, Harvard undergrad, Harvard MBA. Travis Skolrud, our Chief Finance Officer, MBA and 18 years of experience in finance. We have our tech partner, Kadelsky Security, who's bolstered our development process over the last year with generous allocation of resources. So we've put about $2 million into our back-end development and a non-equity bearing interest. We have partnerships with MIT and Georgia Tech, partnership with the Laufenberger and Griffith Lab, who specialize in human disease and human disease modeling, and a partnership with the Platt Lab at Georgia Tech, which specializes in cathepsins, which are the molecule that helps COVID enter into your cells. That's it. I have time for questions or comments.
So the question for you, can you just give us a quick update as to where we are with testing globally and what does that mean to returning to work, just your perception?
My perception is that one of the largest issues is how we coordinate a global effort for creating these tests and creating a supply chain for the raw materials involved with the test. So when we're scaling up on the same infrastructure that we had last year, which last year alone, the closest test to a COVID test is taking an HIV test. Last year alone, we ran 3 million HIV tests all year long on the same equipment with the same staff that are able to run these tests. Within the last few months, we've ran over 5 million tests on the same equipment. So we're overloading the system, we're overloading the equipment usage and the reagents and raw materials. So what people are doing is they're coming up with novel tests and novel ways to identify both exposure and post-exposure antibodies. And when you go through making a novel test, you have a very rigorous review through the FDA and the CDC. There's not a tool that these companies have to do blind validation of the test. And that's sort of where we're positioning our company. We're in talks with the FDA and the medical device unit and digital medicine unit in order to establish a relationship where we could be the solution for validating tests end to end so that people can enter tests faster into the market and deal with the pandemic response and resource allocation needs, which are really under siege right now.